So someone sent me this a few days ago on Discord. If you're not in my Discord server, you should come join. There's a link to that in the description. But what you're seeing here is a game demo prototype of Star Wars 1313. That Star Wars game first announced in 2012, which unfortunately was never finished and put on hold with the end of LucasArts game development. This image here was posted on the Star Wars Leaks subreddit a couple of weeks ago, and although we got a reveal trailer at Gamescom in 2012, this is our first real look at the actual world and levels of Star Wars 1313. A few months ago, there was also what appeared to be a gameplay screenshot of Boba Fett standing looking out over the city. So is there a chance this game could be revived, even though these images are nearly 10 years old now? Do Lucasfilm and Disney still have plans to revive this game? I'm really disappointed we never got this game. I'm pretty sure it would have been different to anything we'd seen before in the Star Wars universe, in gaming, even though it fell into the action-adventure genre, kind of similar to The Force Unleashed or Jedi Fallen Order. The game was announced a few years after The Force Unleashed 2 came out, and as you can see here, this is actually Starkiller in these demo images. Pretty sure he was just being used as the prototype character. But it's always disappointing when a Star Wars game like this gets cancelled. I'm sure you guys feel it too. But I think what was so painful about this one getting cancelled is that they actually released a trailer with both cutscenes and gameplay. So this thing was real, it felt real. And because of this, so many of us felt this thing must have been really close to completion before it was cancelled. That might not be true though. This game has a confusing history, as did several other games in development at LucasArts at the time, right before Disney's acquisition of Star Wars. So I'm going to go through some details you might not have known about this game, take a closer look at these screenshots, and talk a bit about what happened here and where it all went wrong. Star Wars 1313 wasn't originally going to be a Boba Fett themed game. That was the work of George Lucas. Hey everyone, it's Andrew. It seems around this time, I'm going to say between 2010 and 2013, George Lucas wasn't always sure about the direction of certain Star Wars projects being worked on at LucasArts. There were some really strange decisions being made towards the end of Star Wars 1313's development that would have flipped development on its head and required the devs to work harder than ever before to get the game back on track. In the final year of Star Wars 1313's production, George Lucas decided he wanted it to be a game focused on Boba Fett. That was decided towards the end of production. So the work the developers had already put into this game, the story, so much of what had already been built, needed to be reworked to fit the new Boba Fett theme. Does this sound familiar to anyone? It's reminding me a lot of the cancelled Darth Maul game, which was originally going to be a Maul origin story, and then a Clone Wars tie-in for the Clone Wars TV show, and then a tag team game with Darth Maul and Darth Talon, even though these characters are separated by over 100 years in the Star Wars timeline. The direction of each of these projects continued to shift. There are sources that say George Lucas was supportive of what the developers had built with 1313 and only wanted to evolve it into a Boba Fett game because the story that the writers had written still wasn't quite there. 1313 had already been through numerous story changes and reworks. Before 2010, earlier on in production, 1313 was going to be a tie-in for Star Wars Underworld, the cancelled live-action TV show announced by George back in 2005, that would bridge the gap between Revenge of the Sith and A New Hope. There was actually some test footage of this series released earlier this year. Alright, so let's take a look at what Star Wars 1313 was originally supposed to be. This is one of the official descriptions of the game released by LucasArts. Named for Level 1313, a ruthless criminal underground deep below the surface of the planet Coruscant, the game puts players in control of a deadly bounty hunter, as he uses an arsenal of exotic weaponry to hunt down his marks and uncover the truth surrounding a criminal conspiracy. Star Wars 1313 emphasizes epic set pieces and fast-paced combat, with a hero who uses human skills and gadgets rather than supernatural force powers to make his way through this dangerous world. In some ways, I think this game could have been an evolution of Star Wars Bounty Hunter, the game released in 2002, That game, if you remember, was a Jango Fett game where you'd play as the bounty hunter, go on certain missions hunting bounties, and it seems this game would have been largely similar to that, although on a larger scale. And I think Coruscant would have been an incredible location for this game. Feels a bit similar to the Coruscant we saw in Clone Wars Season 7 during the Ahsoka's Journey arc. This was set on the lower levels of Coruscant where the Jedi don't have any presence, and this arc in Season 7 partly explored the failings of the Jedi, how they were unable to help everyone in need. Although the Coruscant of 1313 seemed to be a seedier underworld with more of a focus on the bounty hunting, mercenary side of things. Okay, so let's take a look at some of these new screenshots. Like I said before, the character you see here is Starkiller. I think it's pretty funny seeing him walk around in this world just being used as a stand-in for the game's actual character, who was probably still being developed at this time, or they hadn't decided on who it was going to be yet. This was from the 2010 build of this game, and Star Wars 1313 was being built in Unreal Engine 3. I don't think there are actually many Star Wars games built in Unreal Engine. I know Republic Commando was back in 2005, that was Unreal Engine 2, and of course Jedi Fallen Order is Unreal Engine 4. We also get a good look at some of Coruscant's streets and underworld. This feels straight out of the Attack of the Clones when Anakin and Obi-Wan are looking for Zam Wesell, although that does take place on the surface of Coruscant and not below ground. And we also know the game was going to feature locations such as nightclubs, bars, and other interiors in the Coruscant underworld. The game evolved from being open world in its design from its early concept stages to more of an action-adventure platformer, taking inspiration from the Uncharted series. We see that later in the trailer when he's climbing all over the wreckage of the ship that's going down, which does look like a fun cinematic sequence to play through. And I think you can see a bit of Jedi Fallen Order in here. Although it's interesting that the character here doesn't actually have any force powers, so platforming would have been vastly different, I think. Probably more parkour style. Bounty hunters aren't doing double jumps in midair. In this screenshot here, we can also see a Rodian standing outside at a nightclub. And in the bottom right, we have some work in progress information which says Star Wars weapon dual wield. The game was going to feature several different weapons and gadgets, some of which you'd be able to collect. I'm not sure how much customization there was going to be, but I think we need to try and take a step back from all the hype and disappointment of this game and actually assess what we have. Yes, the game showed promise, and yes, everything we've seen of it is an early build. Even just going back and watching through the trailer, I think it's obvious the game's story isn't quite there yet. But the gunplay and blaster mechanics honestly look and feel really clunky, even by 2012 standards. And I'm sure these would have been more refined as time went on, but just what we can see here doesn't really look amazing. This game's focus, I guess, is more about the world, the fact that it's set on Coruscant's underworld, and the fact it was eventually going to be a Boba Fett game. I think that's where most of the hype actually comes from. And yes, seeing the gameplay trailer is fascinating and is amazing to see, but it's the set pieces that make this game memorable. And there was also a 1313 animation test released on YouTube in 2016, showing some early animation work for the game. And this definitely gives you Naughty Dog Uncharted vibes. This test features gunplay, a working cover system, smooth-looking movement and action sequences, melee attacks, and even an injury system, which would require assistance from your droid partner. Pretty sure this droid here was supposed to be called AT-HD, who was a malfunctioning protocol droid really into space hip-hop, whatever that means. There was a composer enlisted to not only develop music for the game's score, but also for nightclubs, for this droid, for street bands, all these random things that would put together Coruscant's underworld. So after piecing all of these bits together, the concept art, the new in-game screenshots, Boba Fett, the gameplay trailer, this animation test, and more, it's sad to think there was so much promise here and this game may never see the light of day. But there may still be hope yet. In December 2015, Kathleen Kennedy, the president of Lucasfilm, mentioned they've been looking at material for both Star Wars 1313 and Star Wars Underworld, and there's a possibility these projects may still be developed. Now, seeing as though this was 5 years ago, around the time of the release of The Force Awakens, and we've heard nothing of it since, it's hard to believe this is still a reality. This may have been something said in passing to acknowledge all the projects that were cancelled when the Star Wars rights were passed on to Disney, which was still kind of a new thing at the time. But we do know that EA have vowed to double down on Star Wars games over the next few years. They announced that in a press release for their investors a few weeks ago. The extent of this statement and what exactly it means is still unclear, but it seems like EA will be making a real push in the next few years to produce more Star Wars games and maintain their relationship with Disney, Lucasfilm, and hold on to their exclusive Star Wars gaming contract. So could they be working on an updated version of this game? Could they be reviving it in some way or using pre-existing assets to build their own Star Wars 1313? Of all the Star Wars games that have been cancelled, 1313 is the one that comes up the most when I'm doing research online or just talking to other people. It seems to be the one that most people are disappointed didn't make it, and the one everyone would want to see made still today. So, do you think it's possible we'll ever see a Star Wars 1313 game released? Now that you know more details about this game, do you think it would have been any good? And which particular version of this game were you most interested in seeing released? Was it the Bounty Hunter version, the Boba Fett version? Which one did you want to get your hands on the most? Let me know in the comments. And if you'd like to learn more about the cancelled Darth Maul game, I made a few videos about it a while back and actually got to interview the lead developer. You can watch that here. I think it's interesting to see how similar the development journey of both these games was. And follow me on Instagram, Twitter, and join my Discord to stay up to date with Star Wars gaming and everything else. And thanks for watching this. My name's Andrew. I'll catch you soon.
Stay bombastic.